Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. It's time, once again, for another depressing dose of dismal Disney. A few days ago, the Walt Disney Company finally dropped its first full trailer onto YouTube for its live-action Snow White movie that stars that highly controversial and very woke actress, Rachel Zegler.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Disney had initially released the trailer in movie theaters around 2 weeks ago, where it was being played during the coming attractions that were being shown before airings of the movie Wicked, which was produced by rival studios Universal Pictures and Mark Platt Productions. But Disney had not released the trailer on YouTube at the same time, quite possibly out of fear that it would suffer the same fate as the teaser, which Disney had released on YouTube 3 months ago, where it very quickly became very heavily negatively ratioed with dislikes. So much so that as of the time that I am recording this video, the teaser currently has 100,000 likes and 1.4 million dislikes for a ratio of 14-1 against. But before proceeding, I'd like to ask everyone to please like this video, please leave a comment, please subscribe to support this channel, and please press the bell to receive notifications. Thanks! But Disney's failure to release the trailer at the same time on YouTube as it did in movie theaters didn't stop people from making bootleg recordings of it, with some then posting those recordings on YouTube. My understanding, though, is that one or more influencers who had shared clips from the bootlegged video recordings of the trailer in their own YouTube videos were very quickly copyright struck. So no one that I am aware of, including myself, is currently including video clips of the official trailer since it was published by Disney 3 days ago, out of a similar fear. But as of the time that I am recording this video, in 3 days, the official trailer is currently more heavily ratioed than the teaser is, with only 25,000 likes and 616,000 dislikes, which works out to a ratio of 24.6-1 against. And how do I personally interpret that? The official trailer reveals a lot more about the movie's plot than the teaser did, and it includes clearer views of the appalling CGI-generated dwarfs. And speaking of the CGI-generated dwarfs, they are indeed both unappealing and grotesque due to their very disproportionate and oversized heads and their overly fat and flabby bodies that are reminiscent of miniature sumo wrestlers. Disney should simply have cast live actors to portray the dwarfs, rather than pandering to Peter Dinklage and his complaints against the story. Peter Jackson certainly didn't have this problem when he filmed the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogies that are filled with Hobbit and dwarf characters. But Disney decided to waste even more money by creating undesirable CGI-generated dwarfs for a movie that Disney is marketing as a live-action movie. So given how much more ratioed the trailer is than the teaser, I think that it's very safe to say that a lot more people are even more unhappy about the obvious very woke direction that this quote-unquote modernized movie has taken in terms of narrative changes as compared with the still very much beloved 1937 movie, as well as the original fairy tale that was published by the Brothers Grimm in 1812. And that was more than 200 years ago. So everything that Rachel Zegler and to a lesser extent Gal Gadot said at D23 in 2022 about Snow White is true in terms of what Disney has done to modernize the narrative. Thus, I do personally believe that when this movie premieres in theaters on March 21st, 2025, that it is more than likely going to be a very huge flop for Disney, and Rachel Zegler's own actions including her attacks on voters after the 2024 presidential election that was held in the US last month, only made matters worse for Disney. So let's see what Eric Kane wrote about the trailer on December 4th in an article on Forbes that's entitled, "Disney's live-action Snow White looks absolutely dreadful." And the article reads as follows. Disney has released the first full trailer for Snow White, the live-action remake of the 1937 animated classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's one of the most egregiously awful trailers I've ever laid eyes on. I've watched it myself, and I agree that it's absolutely awful. From the nightmarish CGI dwarfs to the oversaturated visuals to the bizarre casting choices. Wow, did he really just say that? Good for him! Snow White combines everything wrong with modern filmmaking into one hideous monstrosity, a film that may go down as the straw that broke the mouse's back once and for all. We can only hope at this point because I don't really know how to fix a corporation as large and as woke as Disney has become. That would be just fine. I like this guy, Eric Kane. If Disney loses hundreds of millions on Snow White, maybe they'll stop churning out this low-effort garbage. Maybe some soul-searching will take place. Right now, the formula over at Disney seems to be pretty straightforward. And what he writes here is incredibly good. Take a beloved classic animated film and turn it into a live-action version with lots and lots of CGI. Recast the leads to fit DEI quotas, spend absolutely no effort on a decent script, but still make enormous changes to the original so that it conforms to the current political zeitgeist. In other words, so that it's filled with woke identity politics messaging. You typically won't find this kind of honesty in the trades or the shill access media websites. Send celebrities cast out on a press tour with a shovel to dig their own proverbial graves, which they will no doubt manage with flying colors. You mean like Rachel Zegler did?
Weird.
Release a subpar product that nobody likes as much as the original, despite the utterly forgettable new songs. And I have said similar things to this last line myself in numerous past videos, as have many other YouTube influencers. When the movie bombs at the box office, hide behind the diverse casting, blaming haters and bigots to deflect legitimate criticism, and clumsily explain poor numbers. Rinse and repeat. Bravo! Finally someone in the media who actually gets it and isn't afraid to report the facts. You will be very hard-pressed to ever see the trades or shill access media websites be as incredibly honest as this. This certainly seems to be what's happening with Snow White. The film is oozing CGI to the point where it's hard to even look at in the trailer. Rachel Zegler is hardly as white as snow. This is what you will absolutely never see in the trades or the shill access media websites. The truth. And worse, she's been one of the most notoriously tone-deaf Hollywood stars during her press tour for the film. You mean like when she said that crap at the D23 Expo back in 2022?
Weird.
Just from the trailer, we can tell that they're completely changing the 1937 script so that Snow White can be the vanquishing hero.
And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
She talks about restoring our kingdom and so forth. Surely she'll rescue Prince Charming from the evil witch in the end. Yep, just as Rachel Zegler said herself, this bastardized rendition of Snow White for the so-called modern audience is just one more sad strong woman trope that everyone is getting tired of watching. I'm all for stories with tough princesses, but are we really so sure that female audiences don't enjoy a charming prince showing up to save the princess also, from time to time? Hollywood has made it abundantly clear that it utterly hates and detests strong masculine men, and especially if they're white. Today's Hollywood only wants weak, stupid, and feeble male characters that are incapable of doing anything for themselves or helping anyone else, and has replaced strong masculine male leads with strong and overly masculinized female leads. Hollywood won't allow for any damsels in distress. They've all been replaced with strong masculinized women who don't need no men. And that's exactly what Rachel Zegler's portrayal of Snow White is going to be, folks. I know certain people will tell you that it's all very sexist and backwards to have princes and knights saving princesses and damsels in distress, but I'm not sure the majority of people actually believe that. In any case, there are certainly stories that retell the Snow White fable with her taking on a more warrior-like role, such as Snow White and the Huntsman, and I'm fine with that. But what's the point of remaking the 1937 film if you completely change the story in the process? Exactly, because then it's not a remake, which is another one of Disney's marketing lies about the upcoming Rachel Zegler movie. Regardless, it looks genuinely bad, a hodgepodge of ideas and overly aggressive CGI, and at least one new totally humdrum song. The movie comes out next March. I do not have high hopes. Nor do I, and nor do most people who are familiar with it already. At some point, Disney needs to start considering its legacy. Not just this corporate tokenistic diversity drive they're so hell-bent to pursue, regardless of what audiences think, but the legacy of their films and what their stewardship of these films and characters and stories will be. There will be a reckoning. Unfortunately, Bob Iger spent millions earlier this year to prevent Nelson Peltz from gaining a seat on Disney's board of directors. Had Peltz been successful, he may have been able to help push Disney back towards the sensible center, but Iger didn't want to lose his control and influence, and it's clear that he had totally committed himself to keeping the company aligned with its far-left DEI woke identity politics agenda. And the upcoming Rachel Zegler Snow White movie, which was clearly written to pander to their so-called modern audience, is proof positive that there won't be a reckoning at Disney as long as its current pro-DEI and pro-woke identity politics managers are all still there. So if Disney wants to remain on its same financially self-destructive path by continuing to push the woke identity politics agenda, let it, because the company's monetary value will only continue to fall along with its stock price, which I hope its shareholders will continue to celebrate given that this is what they voted for when they rejected the opportunity earlier this year to chart a completely different course. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to each and every one of you who has subscribed to support this channel. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, and Blue Sky by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.